Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud. We've been talking about it for months. We're probably going to talk about it for another month. And then after the guys are selected by their respective teams, we'll be talking about it years down the line. These two guys are going to be connected for a long, long time. And I wonder if when the season opens, that hype reaches the ultimate peak. We do have a precedent. Overreactions are a big part of football. Could the NFL set us up to overreact at the highest level about two guys we've been talking about for a while? It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610. Should the Texans and Panthers open the season against each other? If we are to assume, and really regardless of who goes, as long as it's quarterbacks 1 and 2, are we to assume that the Texans will open the season against the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young would face CJ Stroud? We do have a precedent of this. Go back to 2015 when the Tennessee Titans traveled to Tampa Bay to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the Buccaneers were led by number 1 overall pick Jameis Winston, who kind of struggled, 16 to 33, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Titans were led by Marcus Mariota, who had a pretty efficient game, I would say. 13 of 15, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and the Tennessee Titans completely whooped up on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 42-14, and people were saying, wow, did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers make a mistake? Ended up being kind of a cluster with both guys, but the NFL knew what they were doing. They put the number 1 overall pick against the number 2 overall pick. I could very much anticipate, I would almost bet on the NFL doing this with the Texans and Panthers. The NFL is not dumb. Now, the question becomes, though, a team like the Texans who don't have a lot of demand when it comes to prime time, is that a game that maybe you want to save for an early Thursday nighter where you put Stroud versus Young and you get the Texans, you get the Panthers out of the way, and then you can give the Cowboys their 5 and Chiefs their 5 and just fill in the holes accordingly. If I were betting, though, I would say that the Texans start the season in Carolina against the Panthers. We're going to get a little Stroud versus Young action, or whichever 2 quarterbacks go, that's what we would get. Other question I asked yesterday on the show: if the Texans get Bryce Young, now we know Bryce Young is kind of a big name, and we know that he's kind of a national brand. We've seen him on Dr. Pepper commercials. He's a polarizing guy. People got opinions about him, just mainly because of the size, and he plays the quarterback position. He's been at Alabama. He's been in the spotlight for a while. If the Texans get Bryce Young, what is the over-under on the amount of primetime games they would have? I put the over-under at 1.5. Would you take the over or would you take the under? I still would take the under. There's not a demand to see the Texans play. Now, the only way that I would see this going over the 1.5 is if the Texans, let's say the Texans have some sort of like surprising season where they're in the 9-win range and they're competing for the division title and they get flexed, much like Tennessee last year against Jacksonville, where that game got flexed to, I believe it was Sunday night. That's the only way that I see the Texans going over 1.5 primetime games. But I would bet other possibilities, primetime games, Deshaun Watson coming to Houston. Does the NFL want to give Deshaun Watson that type of attention? Has the dust settled, for lack of a better term, to where they're willing to showcase that beef, Deshaun Watson versus DeMeco Ryans? I would like it. I don't know if the NFL would like it. And quite frankly, I don't know if the Cleveland Browns move the needle enough to be willing to go with that. They might still kind of want to keep that on the side, but I do think they'll want to showcase their top 2 quarterbacks. A matter of when. I would love to see it as a primetime matchup. And the other thing is, you talk about overreaction. You go back and look at what was being said after Mariota got the best of Winston. Again, kind of ended up being a pillow fight. Neither guy worked out, but there will be some overreactions. And as much as you can try to minimize overreactions, they're the beauty of the business, because people love to talk. People love to cuss and discuss, and there's nothing more fun to discuss than quarterbacks. Comment, subscribe, Let me know what you think. Do you think Stroud versus Young will be an early matchup, maybe a week 1 matchup like Winston and Mariota in 2015? Do you think this is something they save for primetime? And what's your over-under on Texans primetime games? No matter what happens, though, no matter what goes down, when it comes to this Texans game, we are all in this together. Live stream likely tonight. I'll talk to y'all later. Enjoy the Final Four. Enjoy the Astros. Business picking up, and we're less than 4 weeks away from the NFL draft. Life is good.